How did they recover the bodies of the Titanic disaster? Today we dive in headfirst to uncover the aftermath of the unsinkable Titanic. Stay tuned to find out the horrific fate of the third classes, even after death, and hit the subscribe button, as it's free and you'll never miss an episode. Picture the dark and eerie silence that fell after the final scream, as the last breath left the last lone victim of the Titanic's gruesome sinking. We all know the story of the Titanic sinking, but the work had just begun to recover the dead and bring them back to their families. The CS Mackay Bennet, a cable-laying ship, was sent out for the gruesome task. Captain Fredrick H Larnder was at the helm. His ship had been stripped of its cables and hardware and loaded with coffins, embalming fluid, and its own undertaker. In short, a floating morgue. Captain Larnder paid his crew double for the grim task ahead. Currents and winds had led the bodies to drift for many miles. 103 coffins were on board. Little did they know, they had seriously underestimated the number of unfortunate victims they would find. Stay tuned to find what they had planned for those not important enough for a coffin. 7 days were spent dragging corpses onto the ship. Although the parts of the victims floating above the sea would have been relatively well preserved, it is likely that below the sea line, decomposition would have been far more advanced. Bodies were hauled from the sea, using grappling hooks, nets and ropes. Their bodies laid out, numbered, and a log taken of their physical appearances. Quickly, the crew realized they had a problem. They were running out of coffins. Captain Larnder had already orchestrated a horrifying plan in case of this happening. First-class passengers, identified by expensive clothes, would be prioritized for recovery and given a coffin to rest in. Second-class passengers' remains were recovered, but wrapped in canvas sacks, while third-class passengers were not worth the recovery and would be buried at sea, meaning they were left behind, some wrapped in cloth and tied with weights to sink. Did you know that one body's recovery was worth a reward of around £175,000 or $223,000 in today's money? The crew kept a sharp lookout for Jacob Astor, the richest man on the Titanic. Astor was found and identified by his diamond cufflinks. The money was shared between the crew. When the Mackay Bennet was full, it carried 190 souls, only around 10% of the Titanic dead. 116 more third-class passengers had been cast back into the depths. There are so many other historical horrors waiting to be uncovered. Check out our other videos to discover more.